Welcome to the Strategic Risk Mind podcast. This is your host, Joe Anderson. We're excited to have you here today. Today, I have George Seybold with Talloo as our guest, good friend and partner with our firm. And George has a great background, served in the U.S. military in many roles, including combat roles in Desert Storm, bachelor's degree from BSU in business administration. And George, we're excited to have you on board. You've been a huge help to our company in a few different ways, particularly with our website and some of our outbound marketing efforts and things like that. And we have some really cool things we're launching in partnership with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your firm, kind of your vision for what you bring to the marketplace.
Yeah, so I've been an entrepreneur for a long time, decades, and as I've gone through this journey, I've had some success and had some failure and so forth, as most entrepreneurs do. But what my passion has always been around is people and technology. And as I've come through this entrepreneurial journey, I decided, you know what, there's a whole lot of people who don't understand some of the technology that they need to understand as business owners. And a lot of them get taken advantage of because of the lack of knowledge, simply. So I started Talloo as a digital marketing company and very focused on local customers, because I knew that if we spent the time doing the right business and we could constantly be working to drive the price down for our clients, then we're going to do our best work in helping people who don't have the time and resources to become so deep into something that's so complex and have finite funds in order to be able to purchase digital marketing.
Okay. So you started off in digital marketing, and then where else have you kind of gone from there?
Well, so internally we talk about ourselves as a software company, and we just happen to do local SEO or websites or whatever. So we've built a really robust technology platform we call the Hub, and it's basically going to, as we scale up, we'll compete with many of the social networks. But it's not ad driven. It's not trying to drive engagement. It's trying to create a platform that's useful. So we've built that out, and we have some other products that are just about to release here on the 22nd of December. We'll be releasing something pretty amazing. So it's really, though, about driving down the cost of digital marketing and helping companies reach local customers.
I love that. That's really cool. So one of the things I think in that hub that you showed me was there's a what do you want to call it? Some sort of score to make sure that the people that are connecting in the hub aren't just spamming each other and stuff like that.
Yeah, it was kind of born of a concept. There's certain video games that use a reputation score, and they make life harder if you're a bad actor, or easier if you're not, if you're a good actor. And so when you think about reputation score, whether it's a 5-star review on a Google or what have you, it's in most platforms it's kind of an on-off switch. Either you're in or you're out. We're going to ban you, or we're going to let you operate. Well, the way we architected this thing, it's very visible inside the platform what score you have, and the rules, how to keep your score up, is very transparent, and how long it takes to recover from it. So this reputation score, as an example, if somebody came in and spammed you like they do on LinkedIn often, where people just drop messages after messages, if they're marked spam 5 times, you're actually locked out of messaging for 2 weeks.
Oh my goodness.
Right, so it drops you 20%.
Oh.
Now, other actions, engaging people positively in comments or these type of things, they actually increase your score. So you can do positive things to earn it back faster.
Yeah.
But when you do bad things, your meter is very visible, and that's what you're going to get. Do bad things, turn red.
I like that, because that is a risk, right? A risk is, I don't want to, I've had people tell me this, I don't want to be on a social platform if all I'm going to get is a million invitations and people spamming me all the time, people I don't even know, right?
Right.
And so that you've really addressed something there. I think that's really cool. And I think when we think about risk, a lot of times we think about catastrophe, or we think about the stock market collapsing, or our investments going down. But we don't think about some of the other decisions. We make risk decisions all the time, every day, right? It's cost benefit. Hey, is this worth it?
Right.
Right. What's the risk? And so as we start thinking about that, it's fascinating to see how you guys incorporate that into your platforms and your marketing, because I think that's very smart.
Well, I think, I'll give you another example that we're working on right now, and again, this will be out before the end of the year, is when you're posting something on LinkedIn, you can actually destroy your career pretty fast on LinkedIn by posting the wrong thing. Probably, a lapse in judgment, or it's 12:01 a.m. and all of a sudden you're not thinking too clearly, whatever the thing is. So what we're implementing in the platform is when you're about to post something, using AI and machine learning, we're going to check that and say, hey, yellow light for a second, slow down. What you're about to say may not be received the way you think you're sending it.
Interesting.
And so let's save people a little bit from themselves. Now you post it, it's on you, but we're not going to meter that.
Okay, I got it.
But at least there might be something that's questionable.
That's really good. That's cool. I love it. Yeah. So, and one of the things I like about George and in collaboration is there's not a lot of people that I've found that are really technically sharp and sharp at building relationships and how those two fit together and how the business flow comes together. So the business acumen, the entrepreneurship is important because you understand that, if I'm out trying to develop business, I might need things to look a certain way on my website versus what the guy designing it thinks looks cool, right? And those are things that real business owners run into. So I love that about what you're doing.
Thank you.
I think it's interesting, as we think about some of the challenges that businesses have. One of the challenges is, a negative review, and how that might implicate the company from a PR standpoint, or what kind of legal issues may come out of that. Can you address that a little bit based on
Absolutely.
kind of what you've experienced and kind of, as you've seen things happen, and what are some tips you can give some of our listeners?
Yeah, absolutely a very, very important piece. So I'm going to give you some valuable tips. So I hope you hear this. First of all, a negative review kind of punches you in the gut when you're a business owner. You're like, holy cow, somebody just hit my baby. I don't like it, right? So you're operating full on emotion. Then what is the next response that you have is, I'm going to hit them back for hitting my baby. Don't do it. Stop, pause, skip a beat, get some other company that's supporting you. Do this to do this for you instead. But here's the real reaction if you're of solid mind when you're doing this. First of all, is this thing related to the business we did? So if somebody gives you a bad review because they were cut off in traffic and mad at you, but you're an HVAC company, don't respond to that review. Report that as off topic with Google. Just don't respond. Mm-hmm. If you respond, Google may not take it down. So just don't do it. Now, what if it's a valid review and somebody says, hey, you destroyed my home, water went everywhere, you're a plumber and water went everywhere and you destroyed my floor.
Yeah.
Respond. First of all, say, hey, can I take care of this? We really want to take care of this and do this right thing. If that's not if they're not responsive in that way, then say, you know what, we recognize this happened and we made every effort in order to be able to make amends and make things right. But we were unable to in this situation due to some impairments that we were not be able to touch the property, et cetera, et cetera. But it shows a 1-star review, a 2-star review, or whatever, shows that you're human. And when you try and correct something that went wrong, it shows that you cared enough to try and correct something.
That's right.
So don't think of it as, just don't attack back is the biggest thing. And if it's not on topic, or it's abusive, or it's calling out somebody by name, you can dispute these with Google. They'll take them down. Other organizations where reviews are may not, but Google will.
Mm-hmm. So, kind of follow up on that. I mean, I hear some companies every once in a while where their Google account gets suspended or there's some action that Google takes against them on the public space.
Yeah.
How do companies deal with that?
Suspension can happen for a lot of reasons. Oftentimes it's simply there was something that was misunderstood by Google, but they do review this content. So you can go through the suspension process. It's very spelled out with Google and appeal it. In the United States, you have limited ability to be able to tell Google, hey, put it back, unless they want to, unless you state your case and they're willing to work with you. Most of the time it'll come back, but you can't make Google do something. That being the case, September this year, the federal government has said, hey, Google, you got too much power. And so they mandated that Google do some things, and there's going to be a lot more players that come on the market to compete with Google because of this. And so as Google has a really strong hold on home services and a lot of other industries that have to do with local business. The fact is that right now, if you're suspended, it can kill your business. The stranglehold there, it's a terrible way to put it, but the stranglehold is going to loosen because of the changes that are happening.
I see.
But the thing is be real, be honest, be clear, be concise when you're dealing with Google, And if you didn't do something nefarious, they'll work with you. But if you did something nefarious by gaming reviews or putting some content on your profile that shouldn't have been on your profile in the first place, they'll lock you out. It's their platform. You're playing by their rules.
That's interesting. Now, this is another topic that's kind of come up a few times. I want to see what your thoughts are on, but you talk about the Google profile review and your Google score and how high you're on the Google page, but now a lot of people are using the AI bots, Chat GPT, there's a bunch of other ones.
Sure.
But they're using those and they're going, I want to make sure that my name's going to come up when people search for this category, right?
Yeah.
And so how are they related? How are they separate? Like you give a Google review, you got your AI chat bot. I mean, they're searching the internet, both of them, right? To help us understand that a little bit.
So it's a very complicated answer, but I'll try to simplify it just for time. AI, it uses web crawlers in order to be able to search the internet and find out what you're about. Okay, so they're doing something similar to what Google does, but Google is light years ahead of them. Okay, a web crawler is a relatively dumb piece of code that goes and says, hey, I'm going to try to figure this thing out, and if I get fatigued, I'm going to go away. And so they become fatigued when they trip over certain code or big images, these type of things.
Okay.
So as you want to be inside of AI from an index standpoint, your websites have to be very, very simple. They have to have questions and answers. They have to have a certain thing called a local business JSON file. You can Google that or ChatGPT it, and you'll figure it out. It's not complex. It's very, very important to make it simple for these bots to figure out. But here's the thing that becomes the complexity of things. When you are a plumber in Boise, Idaho, it can take into context all kinds of things that normal Google search won't or other search engines won't. Take, for instance, if you're in an old neighborhood and you're a plumber, if you don't offer 24/7 emergency service, it'll demote you in the rankings inside of AI. The reason being is because an old home's going to break more than a new home, right? And so it's intelligent. It's trying to apply intelligence to what is that searcher seeking.
I see.
So the game's changing. Now, by third quarter next year, Google will be full AI mode instead of their search results is what's being, what I've heard shared. And so so plan on this is that you need to understand how your customer in your area, whether you're national or local or whatever, is going to be using your resource based upon what you do and how they would search for it.
That's really cool. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very interesting. As I kind of think about the marketplace that we live in with AI and some of the capacities are really cool. Some of the capacities are a little scary. And sometimes people are like, they can mimic my voice and mimic my face and all these things. And so, there may be a fraudulent post or a fraudulent fabrication of something you said, and maybe a competitor is doing this. How does a company deal with that?
So, yes, it's a big problem. And is it scary? I don't think that. I think there are high-value targets and low-value targets, and most companies are not high-value targets. So risk is greater as you become more wealthy, right? But can it be done? Could I take in and I can have you say 3 numbers and I can mimic your voice with AI right now. Can I take your license or your likeness and create video with you? Yes, I could. Now, what do you do after that? So first of all, in context, it would be completely out of character because I know you, for you to do certain things. So we've got to filter that and say, is that really Joe? Probably not Joe.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if it was on the national stage and they don't know Joe, am I a high value enough target in order to be able to try to take down? Okay, these are the things that are there. But yes, it's completely doable. Now, there are like OpenAI, ChatGPT has more safeguards than others in place that will not let you take a picture of a human and bring it into Sora and create a video with the human. So that's not possible, mostly. There's some ways around it, but I'm not going to share those here. But but the thing is that they're trying to put safeguards in place to make things better. The problem is that we have 330 million minds in America, and think about the rest of the world. that are trying to figure out ways around the corner that they've created for us. So is it going to happen? It's going to happen. How do you de-risk it? I think we have to play in the world that we're in and recognize that we don't have that control.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just goes to show to build your reputation and your relationships, and then people are going to be able to tell the difference, right?
Yes, they should be able to. And quite honestly, anyone inside of telecom can say you were at that location doing that thing. They still have to have a burden of proof, right?
That's
so
right.
things are still able to be subpoenaed.
That's right. That's interesting. So, you have such an interesting background, and I wanted to touch on that a little bit. Being in the military, appreciate your service. Thank you very much for that. And, we owe a great debt of gratitude to our military veterans because they're what allow us to be the most prosperous and safe country in the world, really. And so along with a lot of our emergency responders. But it's interesting kind of looking at that background and then looking at, your work with the telecom, Verizon, and then kind of building your own company and looking at how do I help other companies in the digital space, in the digital world, be relevant, be exciting, be able to grow, that kind of thing. I think it's interesting, and I wonder, as you kind of think back in regards to like your time in the military and some of the things that you learned there, and then your time working with Verizon, what are some of those transferable skills that you feel like you've been able to bring to the table for companies?
That's a big question. So I guess, if you think on the risk side, I'll talk to that for just a second. So I did protective services for a good while while in the military. One gentleman, high-ranking gentleman, said to me one time, he says, "Don't embarrass me," which was a wonderful first meeting. But what he meant by it, as I learned, was watch for the things that are going to embarrass me. Watch what's going to get caught on camera. Help me avoid that obstacle, and then help me respond to it if something does happen. Help me respond to it well, right? And I think that training or knowledge or understanding of the world, I think that helps me be a better business person in service to my clients because I can help them avoid the obstacles that might impair them. Now, with that being the case, I've taken jobs in my career in order to further my education. I think that the best education is in work. And so, almost not college, to be honest, because it's not tactical at the time of college. You don't understand how to use it.
Yeah.
And so that's been my education board. So when I worked with Weyerhaeuser for a while, there was, wonderful knowledge about how long it takes to scale something up or scale something down. So understanding time, how to gate decisions in a very complex organization, how to create safety in a very complex organization. Going into Verizon, I really wanted to understand subscription models of business and understand, what does attrition look like? Why do people leave? What's the conversion process when it comes to, this is a new customer or this is a switching customer. They've never had this thing before, or they have had this thing and they're switching to something else. It really helped me understand that buyer behavior. Yeah. So I think of myself and how I guide my company at the intersection of people and technology. And so I have to be a technological guide, and I have to remain human during the process.
Yeah.
And so that's really the core ethos of our business.
Yeah, because you got to build, and as you're working in the military, you're building relationships not only in the military but with the people that you're in around your area, right?
And in very uncomfortable situations most of the time.
Yeah, and so being able to overcome challenges, situations, that's all really important. That's really cool, George. And I think, as we're moving forward with our company, George is a key partner for us, and it's the partners that tend to get in that key status are the ones that can help you see forward, right? I had someone earlier saying, see around the corner, right? That's a good way to put it. But what does it look like, when you expand and grow? And so I like that. And with risk management, it's an important piece for us, right? We're trying to we don't always have the answers, but if we ask good questions and we can draw out of people what they already know, and then we can say, hey, well, what about this? Or what about that? How would you, and kind of start getting the brain to get outside of that, tunnel vision, kind of groupthink kind of mentality that we get into when we do the same job over and over again every day, right? and it's like, hey, let's interrupt that system a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's throw some curveballs and go, hey, well, what would happen if this happened or that happened, right? And I think you're one of those collaborators that does something similar. It's not all about, just having all the answers that make everyone feel great, which is nice. You do make me feel great, but my point is, you have to ask some tough stuff too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be able to go, well, I don't know if that's the right way to go. What about this happen?
Right.
And I think we've had that conversation multiple times, and I think that's important. And so I love that, because I think, it doesn't need to just be all technology, right, or all relationships, or there's a ecosystem we work in where they all work together. So what does that look like, and how do we optimize that? I think that's kind of a fun picture that you help paint. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And then, as far as, kind of jumping back to the local search engine optimization and kind of your work there, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll tell you, August 1st this year, it changed so much, and it really rocked a lot of boats, including my organization, because they really focused back on shrinking the map for business. So if you have a pin on the map and somebody's searching for you, we call it 5 mile famous, but you've really got to focus in on that 5 miles around you. That really changed everything. Then also Google's move with AI. They've done a couple releases since then that have really changed their footprint of AI overall, and Google is a strong leader right now. And so when those things are hard to keep up with.
Yeah.
And they're hard for any business that, it's one thing to have a marketing person in your organization, but to have somebody with that depth that is required for such a radically shifting ground right now, it's very, very hard to keep up with, and it can't be underrated there. That being the case, there are some fundamentals, and I'll share those a little bit.
Yeah, please.
You don't have to outspend your competition. You don't have to work on that problem. What you do need to do is you need to focus on local relevance. You need to have a stronger signal. Connect with your partners, as we do. Connect with your chambers, your organizations that are around you, and get them to link to you. Take pictures with them. Share in the community. If you're going to go ice skating and take some pictures. You're a part of the business. It's okay to share it as a part of your business and be of your community. So important. We skip it because it's not efficient. And that's the problem with most businesses. We say, well, I don't want to take this picture, but there's this wonderful guy. He has he's an electrician, has a small business, and his little girl wears his shirt, and his wife wears his shirt, and they went down to this little festival and stuff, and the little girl's talking. He has his little girl talking about his business and stuff. Yeah. This is community. This is family. This is what it's about when it's a local business. And that type of stuff is magical. That is what Google wants. That's what Facebook wants. That's what all of them want. Send the local signals. Humanity.
I think that's what people want too. They want to relate to people that are real, right? It's not all about business all day long, 24/7.
No.
It's like, hey, what are some fun things you did? And what do you like to do? And what are some ways you care for your community? And how do you serve? And
exactly.
I think that's a great message, George. Yeah, it's really important because we can get locked in on every little indicator of how we're doing online or whatever it is, and there's a part of it that does matter, but it also matters who you are.
Exactly right.
Do people know that?
And anyone can go to Talloo.com and they can look at the learn section, and they can learn all the things I know and all the things we know as an organization. We publish all the time. The mechanics are important. The humanity cannot be replaced by some big organization that is faceless. That's where your competitive advantage is.
I love it. Yeah, that's great, George. Man, this has been really good, and I think it's so important as people are building businesses right now to be able to have confidence in business. And confidence is derived from having good people around you that are knowledgeable, that you can work together with, right? Because by ourselves, we're pretty vulnerable.
Yes.
And I like to think of it as a building, right? I mean, if you have one rock and it's sitting out on its own, it's going to get beaten by the weather over time. If you got a building of rocks and they all support each other, they can accomplish some pretty cool things, and they can make sure that they're not getting taken out by the elements, right? And so I think, if we look at that in our society, we tend to live in an individualistic. We're called that anyways in the U.S. We're kind of individualistic, but the reality is we need so much. We're dependent.
Yes.
So find good partners you can be dependent on if you're going to be dependent. and then let's take ground together and let's have confidence in doing that. And I think there's this hesitancy in the market sometimes when things change. And it's like, do we need to be hesitant when there's change? I don't know if we do. I think we need to be smart, we need to consider, we need to be analytical, but then we probably need to jump in and go for it.
Well, and to punctuate that, how often, you ask somebody to link to your website.
Yeah.
And they're a partner, or they're, you're saying, hey, we can figure something out. Let's co-link to each other.
Mm-hmm.
How many times do they go, wait a minute, am I endorsing that brand? Do I know them that well? All these questions. A link is not an endorsement. A link is a link.
Yeah.
We need to get over ourselves and stop analyzing it too much and start linking to our community partners that actually can deliver value with us. Mm. This is so simple, but there's this immediate thing of concern before movement.
Yeah.
And then if they do something wrong, and most people won't, remove your link. It's rocket science, right? Remove your link, no big deal. So mitigate your risk.
And I was talking with a gentleman earlier today. He was talking about financial investments, and he's a equity partner, kind of investor. Mm-hmm. And he says our strategy is basically when the market fluctuates from greed to fear to greed. And he says when people are fearful, we get greedy. That's a pretty good, interesting way to look at it, right?
Interesting, yes.
Because you want to buy when things are down, and you want but it's similar in business. I think there's a piece where if everyone else is freaked out, there's probably some good opportunities out there to take advantage of if you do your homework.
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, that's cool. This has been great, George. We'll give you last phrase or word, a couple words or whatever you want to say to our audience of just things to keep in mind, but appreciate having you on the podcast. Yeah. Anything come to mind?
Well, I just don't want people to make decisions in a vacuum on what they're doing. Is what the whole mission of this is. Uh-huh. If people, we're not a hard sales organization. This, and we're communicative. I want them to ask questions. If somebody ever sees us and they say, "Hey, I have a question," reach out and ask. Don't do things. Don't go blindly in the night reading something on a blog and believing that it's real. Because oftentimes it's not as real as you might think. Yeah. So that's all I'd ask.
And I'll add one thing. A lot of times people get put in different categories. They're really relational and outgoing, and they're really technical, right? Yeah. And I don't know if that's always true, but George, you've sure impressed me on both sides. And I think that's important. You've worked hard at figuring out how do I build great relationships. And how do I have technical expertise? And that's a differentiator for you in the marketplace.
Yeah, so I think so. Be a good human, simple.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Appreciate that. Well, this has been another great episode of the Strategic Risk Mind podcast. I'm Joe Anderson, your host. Thank you for joining us. It's been our pleasure to have George Seybold.
Thank you.
Have a great day. We'll see you next time.